West Point formed the extreme western cape of the plateau. To the left of West Point was a deep cut-in of the rim wall called the Bay. The three important canyons opened into it. From the bay, the south rim was regular and impassable all the way round to the narrow saddle, which connected it to the mainland. "Now then," said Jones when we assured him that we were pretty well informed as to the important features, "you can readily see our advantage. The plateau is about 9 or 10 miles long and 6 wide at its widest. We can't get lost, at least for long. We know where lions can go over the rim, and we'll head them off, make shortcut chases, something new in lion hunting. We are positive the lions cannot get over the second wall, except where we came up at the saddle. In regard to lion signs, I'm doubtful of the evidence of my own eyes. This is virgin ground. No white man or Indian has ever hunted lions here. We have stumbled on a lion home, the breeding place of hundreds of lions that infest the north rim of the canyon." The old plainsman struck a big fist into the palm of his hand, a rare action with him. Jim lifted his broad hat and ran his fingers through his white hair. In Emmett's clear desert eagle eyes shone a furtive, anxious look, which yet could not overshadow the smoldering fire. "If only we don't kill the horses," he said. More than anything else, that remark from such a man thrilled me with its subtle suggestion. He loved those beautiful horses. What wild rides he saw in his mind's eye. In cold calculation, we perceived the wonderful possibilities never before experienced by hunters. During supper we talked incessantly, and afterward around the campfire. Twilight fell with the dark shadows sweeping under the silent pines. The night wind rose and began its moan. "Sure there's some scent on the wind," said Jim, lighting his pipe with a red ember. "See how uneasy Don is?" The hound raised his fine dark head and repeatedly sniffed the air, then walked to and fro as if on guard for his pack. Mose ground his teeth on a bone and growled at one of the pups. Sounder was sleepy, but he watched Don with suspicious eyes. The other hounds, mature and somber, lay stretched before the fire. "Tie them up, Jim," said Jones, "and let's turn in." When I awakened next morning, the sound of Emmett's axe rang out sharply. Little streaks of light from the campfire played between the flaps of the tent. I saw old Mose get up and stretch himself. "I'll rustle for breakfast," called Jim. We ate in the semi-darkness, with the gray shadow ever brightening. Dawn broke as we saddled our horses. The pups were limber and ran to and fro on their chains, scenting the air. The older hounds stood quietly waiting. "Climb up, you fellas," said Jones impatiently. "Have I got everything? Rope, chains, collars, wire nippers? Yes, all right. Hyar, you lazy dogs, out of this." We struck out of the pines at 5:30. Floating mist hid the lower end of the plateau. The morning had a cool touch, but there was no frost. Crossing Middle Canyon about halfway down, we jogged on. Cedar trees began to show bright green against the soft gray sage. We were nearing the dark line of the cedar forest when Jim, who led, held up his hand in a warning check. We closed in around him. "Watch Don," he said. The hound stood stiff, head well up, nose working, and the hair on his back bristling. All the other hounds whined and kept close to him. "Don scents a lion," whispered Jim. "Hunt him up, Don, old boy," called Jones. The pack commenced to work back and forth along the ridge. We neared a hollow when Don barked eagerly. Sounder answered, and likewise Jude. Moses' short, angry bow-wow showed the old gladiator to be in line. "Ranger's gone," cried Jim. "He was farthest ahead. I bet he struck it. We'll know in a minute, for we're close." The hounds were tearing through the sage, working harder and harder, calling and answering one another, all the time getting down into the hollow. Don suddenly let out a string of yelps. I saw him, running head up, pass into the cedars like a yellow dart. Sounder howled his deep full bay and led the rest of the pack up the slope in angry clamor. "They're off!" yelled Jim, and so were we. In less than a minute we had lost one another. Crashings among the dry cedars, thud of hoofs and yells kept me going in one direction. The fiery burst of the hounds had surprised me. I remembered that Jim had said Emmett and his charger might keep the pack in sight, but that none of the rest of us could. We climbed a ridge and found the cedars thinning out into open patches. Then we faced a bare slope of sage, and I saw